If you love driving electric vehicles, but you have family members that you gotta cart around on a regular basis, you've got a new option here in the Hyundai Ioniq 9. But if you do need to do a lot of highway driving with this bigger vehicle, what sort of range can you expect here in the real world? Well, tonight we're gonna find out. Hey everybody, it's Charlie from DM Moto, and today we've got the real-world highway range and efficiency test on the 2026 Hyundai Ioniq 9. In this test, I'm going to head out on the highway and do 50 miles out and 50 miles back, averaging 70 miles per hour, to get a realistic range and efficiency number for this larger electric vehicle. But before we get started, let's hop out and take a look at it. This is the SEL model, which is giving us all-wheel drive, so it's not the most efficient Ioniq 9 on the market, but it's also not the performance model that gets a little bit lower range figures. This one coming in at an EPA 320 miles of mixed driving range. If you convert that number based on its MPGe figure for highway testing, we're looking at about 283 highway miles. So, still a very good figure for a car that has 7 seats and all of this space and all-wheel drive. So if you do want to see more on the new Ioniq 9, check the link below. We've got our full pros and cons review. We've got a dedicated sound test on this 8-speaker audio system. We're going to try to get into the Bose at some point as well. And what do we else? We have the sound test. I guess that's about... Oh, we got a members-only sound test as well, which you can find linked below. But before we get back to the test, let me give a quick shout-out to the video sponsor, Lasfit. If you're getting a bigger vehicle like this, especially with family, you're going to want something more robust than the standard carpeted floor mats that come with this car. So if you get a set of Lasfit liners like you see here, you get coverage along the door sill, keep you from getting muddiness all over this white part. It gets up underneath the pedals. It goes all the way through the middle with these nice sipes that keep the snow and the slush and the gunk off of your carpets, and you get the same throughout the cabin. You can see back here as well. These were actually kind of difficult to get in the vehicle because they are so, they go so deep into the seats in both directions and really cover well. Again, go all the way through the middle. And then if you come and check out the cargo area, same sort of thing. And this has been our experience with all the Lasfit mats and all the vehicles that we review. We love putting these in because they cover everything so well. I had some boxes in earlier this week with the car and just slide them in and still access your floor mat, underfloor, everything like that. They bend. They have these little cutouts for the seat compartments and everything. So if you've got a larger vehicle, or really any vehicle, especially if you live in an area that gets snow, sleet, slush, if you do off-roading, anything like that, pick yourself up some Lasfit mats. They are a lifesaver, and we can save you some money down using DM Moto in the link below. So why do we do this test? Well, the EPA's highway fuel economy test, which, as I said, gives this car 78 MPGe and 283 miles, that test only averages 48 miles per hour. We know there are plenty of people who need to go out and do big miles on the highway and would like to know what sort of numbers you can realistically expect here in the real world. And generally, electric vehicles don't do as well at higher speeds as they do lower speeds, so it's good to know what sort of numbers you get cruising at 70. So in order to test that out, I'm going to charge this thing all the way up. We're going to head out in the evening when there's less traffic on the highway. I'm going to go out and do those 100 miles, then come back, charge the car all the way up again, and calculate our figures based on electricity put into the vehicle, as well as the reported efficiency. Now, a few things to note for the test. Outside temperature and conditions will be pretty ideal. It'll be about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. We're right here at sea level, so obviously you're going to get lower figures if you're doing this test in windy conditions or particularly hilly conditions or cold conditions. We're going to have our climate control set at 73 degrees auto and the tire pressure set at their door placard, 38 psi front and 39 psi rear. Very specific numbers there. So I'm excited to see how this does. If we even get close to that 280 mile figure, then that is more than enough in my eyes, because we've got great charging speeds here with the Hyundai electric vehicles. And if you're road tripping somewhere with a family, I mean, you're not going to be able to make it much more than 250 miles or so without stopping and stretching legs and using the bathroom and getting some snacks. But it is important to note as well, if you are doing road tripping with family, you're going to have a lot more weight in the car, so that's going to lower your range a little bit. So, without any further ado and yapping, let's head to the test. We've got the Ioniq 9 all juiced up, 100% state of charge, just took it off the charger, and I like how we have this set up here where it shows us an average range based on our recent driving and this current state of charge, and then also an optimistic and a pessimistic kind of minimum and maximum here. So theoretically, if you're driving easy on this, you can be getting over 400 miles. If you're going really hard, you're going to be whaled down by 260. So let's reset our trip here. So we've put 271 miles on this car already. Wow, I guess I've driven it more than I realized. And done 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. Pretty good. Reset that. I'm going to get the climate rolling here. Auto 73. And then reset the GPS. And we're ready to roll. Now we do have a few different drive modes here in the Ioniq 9. We've got Eco, Normal, Sport, and a custom My mode. We're going to be doing this test in Eco. And as I understand it, if you drive in Eco mode with level 3 regen, not iPedal, but just level 3, then the front axle is essentially not used. The front drive motor, I should say. It's just rear drive motor, unless you really give it the beans. Therefore, should be a little bit more efficient because that front motor is decoupled. This is something kind of cool that the Hyundai vehicles have. I wish more vehicles did. It breaks down what's been using your energy: drivetrain, electronics, climate, and battery care. So since we've gotten 0.3 miles away from the house at this point, 77% has been used up by the drive motor, and the rest is climate and electronics. But as we get going here, that drivetrain is picking up significantly. I would imagine most of electronics right now is lighting, but obviously a little bit of the computers running as well. Something else that's nice about the Ioniq 9 is when you have full regen on or strong regen like I do right now, even when the battery is at 100% state of charge, you still get that one pedal driving effect. There are some electric vehicles that when you charge them all the way up to full, you lose that one pedal driving effect when you're all the way charged up, because the battery is completely topped off. There's nowhere else for those electrons to go. But here in the Ioniq 9, they figured out a way to still make it work, whether it's using friction brakes or there's just a little bit of room left in the battery. But the goal of this test isn't to hypermile. We're not trying to get the best possible fuel economy for this car, but rather a realistic figure. So in order to do that, I'm getting up to highway speed here at a reasonable pace, and I'm going to set my cruise control to a GPS indicated 71 miles per hour. That should allow us to average about 70 over the whole test. And it looks like the car's speedometer is about half a mile per hour low. So if I jump up to 72, we are getting 71 on the GPS. So that's probably where we're going to settle in. I'll keep an eye on it, see if we're oscillating back and forth between 71 and 72 on the GPS. Maybe I'll drop it down a little. But initial highway impressions. Overall, this is a nice place to be, at least initially here. Road noise not too bad, decently dampened, and we have Hyundai's excellent active lane keeping, which pretty much makes it so as long as you're paying attention and occasionally touching the steering wheel here, this car will drive for you on the highway. It's a fantastic system. It's going to be a nice reprieve after being in those Subarus for a number of weeks with their not so good eyesight. So, speaking of not so good though, we're going to be listening to the audio system quite a bit tonight. I've got a lot of members only tracks to test out, so if you want to see those, check the link below. Unfortunately, that's probably this car's biggest weak point, is the sound system. This is just the 8-speaker bass system, not the Bose, and it is bad. But either way, I'm going to continue on with the test and catch up with you at the end. In the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip. coming into the end of the highway efficiency test here in the Hyundai Ioniq 9. This is a great place to be on the highway, as long as you don't like listening to music. If you got a podcast going, the seats are comfortable, the ergos are good, it's pretty quiet, the ride is fine. Good amount of sidewall on the tires, so it's helping with the bump absorption. Steering wheel's in a good spot, good cup holders, climate's nice, cool ambient lighting. I mean, really not anything not to like, except for one thing. This center console has this hard ridge where it opens up, and there's hard elements, hard plastics reinforced on either side. So if you're somebody who likes to drive with just your right hand on the steering wheel and your elbow resting on the center console, it hurts. So poor design there, but other than that, this is a nice place to be. In terms of efficiency, we are doing right exactly what the EPA said we would get, 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour. If you extrapolate that out with 110 kilowatt hours, then you would be getting about 280 miles, which, if you remember, 283 is what that MPGe figure comes out to when you kind of adjust for the highway figure. So, not bad for cruising at steady state. We have had an average speed of, what does that say, 60? I think that says 68.2, but that includes some of the time that we were stopped in my driveway. I need to find another GPS app that shows moving speed average as opposed to any stop speed. That was the old GPS app that we used only showed moving speed average, which is very helpful in a car like this. But either way, we're going to get this back to the house. I'm going to charge it all the way back up, and then we are going to see what our final numbers are. But I'm going to say that at this point, based on the battery percentage and the trip computer, we are actually trending up closer to 300 miles. So really curious what our final numbers are going to be when we charge up, but not a bad place to be. We are all charged up here the next morning in the Ioniq 9, and the charger ended up putting in, it was 41.8 kilowatt hours, but we assume about a 90% charging efficiency of actual energy going back into the battery. So if our goal is to calculate total efficiency and energy use while driving, we got a total of 37.6 kilowatt hours used to motivate the Ioniq 9 for 100.8 miles. 100.8 divided by 37, what was that, 37.62 is giving us, okay, very close to what the car gave us, and with the rounding probably right on there, 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. We're going to round this to 2.68 for a little bit more accuracy, or what was that, precision. Precision is the right word. So 2.68 miles per kilowatt hour is our highway cruising number, and that again is pretty darn accurate to the EPA's estimate, because the EPA estimated we get 283 miles cruising on the highway, and 2.68 times that 110 kilowatt hour battery pack is actually over. So you're looking at 290 if we floor down to the nearest 10, 290 miles of highway cruising range with one person in the car here in the Ioniq 9 SEL. So that's all-wheel drive, 320 miles of mixed driving, EPA estimated range, but 290 on the highway. That's pretty darn good for a car this size, because the way I see it is that means you could load this thing up with people and gear, and you go out, and you're never realistically going from 100% state of charge to 0% state of charge. You're going somewhere maybe 100 down to about 10ish or so if you're kind of feeling that, and then you're going to hit an electric charging station, top off, or probably only charge up to about 80 to 90% and continue on your way. So that means you can probably go about 200 or so miles in between charging stops. Because let's see, what would 80% of this number be? 290 times 0.8. All right, so 230 miles roughly to go from 10% up to 90% and keep on going. So that means you could, if you're doing 70 miles per hour, you could go about 3 hours or so roughly from charging stop to charging stop if you're doing an extended road trip. And to me, that's pretty darn usable, because again, if you've got kids or family members or anything like that, they're probably going to want to be stopping every few hours, and it's good to stop every 3 hours or so and relieve yourself, stretch your legs a little bit. I know for some people that's not long enough. Some people love to go 4 or 5 hours at a time, in between stops and snacks and fuel or, bathrooms or everything like that. So for you, we're still not quite there with the Ioniq 9, but for the price point and for the battery capacity, I'm pretty good with that. So 290 miles, 2.68 miles per kilowatt hour. And what I also like is that means that the gauge readout there is pretty darn accurate. So thank you all so much for watching. If you would like to see more on the Ioniq 9, check the link below. Shout out to our sponsor Lasfit for the floor mats. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.